We're well on track, thanks to our friend. And I'd like to introduce somebody that I find quite impressive, Corby Fine from IGM Financial. If you're ready, I know it's a little early, but you're prepared. And Corby's going to talk about AI, beyond the hype. I've had some experience with Corby, and he's very pragmatic and can separate the BS from marketing outcomes, I think.
I'm blunt.
He's blunt. So I'll let you do your stuff, but great to see you.
Thank you. So go Jays. Sorry, I'm from Toronto. I was at the game on Sunday. We lost last night, but normally I would say you're like the only thing, or I'm the only thing holding you back from like the beer at the end of the day. But I'm going to the game after this. So I scored tickets. I'm coming to Chicago. I'm going to the game. So you're the only thing holding me back from Wrigley Field. Fair trade. I won't rush it as a result of that, maybe. So I'm doing a presentation tomorrow, which normally I would say should go first. And tomorrow I'm going to talk a little bit about what we at IGM, and I'll tell you who IGM is, have actually done so far with regards to AI implementation. And today was really more to ask questions and get people to think a little bit about what are the things you should think about when you're planning some pilots, some tests, some implementations. So organizationally, IGM is a fairly large Canadian multi-purpose financial services org. We've got a wealth management brand with about 2,500 advisors, mostly entrepreneurial, about $150 billion under management, all Canadian. And then we've got an asset management firm as well called Mackenzie, which would be a Fidelity type competitor in the Canadian market, another about $150 billion under management. So about 300 between the two. And then we're part of a larger org called Power Corp, which also includes Canada Life, a large insurance company, portions of investments in things like Wealthsimple, an online robo-advisor, China AG Asset Management, Rockefeller out of Boston. So fairly diversified, large, nobody knows who the heck we are, which is a little bit of a good thing. But what we are is, I would say, fairly progressed in terms of our willingness to test and try. The use of AI, the use of data, and really trying to modernize the way we operate. So just before I kind of go real quick, who's actually live in market with either internal efficiency or gains or client-facing AI output, like something that's in market that's live right now? Maybe 10 to 15%. I think the first thing that we were kind of trying to think about is why, and what are the things we need to really be cognizant of. I think everyone in this room, irrespective of the specificity of what your business is, there's very, very common pressures, right? We got to do more with less. That ROI efficiency, prove the value of every dollar, especially in marketing. What the hell is what you're doing actually driving to the bottom line? Assets under management, client growth, churn reduction. The compliance complexity, don't screw up, right? Just don't shoot ourselves in the foot all the time. And an abundance of tech. I mean, the room next door is a great example. There's a lot of really good stuff. There's a lot of point solutions. There's also a lot of embedded capabilities in the big players, the Salesforces, the Adobes. Everybody's going down, well, we have the best AI solution. And how do you know what's actually the right way to go? But I think we can all align that, at least from a direction, these are the common core challenges that we're all facing. And so I just want you to take a second and think about, okay, so what would there be in terms of and you can write this down, you cannot write it down, something in your day-to-day role. We're all generally in the marketing. I heard some salespeople here before, but we're all trying to create stuff to get in front of prospects and clients to create better outcomes for them in our business. What's something that you just think is, I don't know, a problem? It's too slow, it's not as efficient, it's not driving the output that you want. And just take note of that as we think through the next 20 minutes or so of what that might be. You can write it down, not, they gave you paper. I'm a digital guy. Hot topics, content supply chain, compliance efficiency, personalization at scale, analytics and insights, Everybody got something in their mind that they're thinking about as an area for improvement? So you've written it down. I think we agreed, at least nobody said no to some of the challenges. But when we think about what are the opportunities for embedding AI, I think about transforming marketing into an absolute measurable growth center. So the simple term I have is, end-to-end reporting. How can we prove the value of whether that's that connected TV ad, whether it's that MarTech piece of technology that we spent money on implementing, whether it's a campaign, a creative. I mean, we're trying to get down to the value and return on investment for every asset that we create and store in our digital asset management platform in our DAM. Right? How many hours did it take to produce, to create, to get through the funnel? And then how many times was it actually viewed or used? You'd be amazed how many times someone in distribution in our firm says, I really need this thing, this white paper, this presentation, this sales collateral, and it gets used by like 7 individuals. So that's one of the things we're working on, is an automatic analytics engine that would take a look at the contribution and then recommend in the future what not to do and what to do as we write briefs. That's for tomorrow's conversation. But that's one of our challenges. So the question is, how do we actually create efficiency? But how do we actually do more with the same? And I've heard it a few times today, it's great. Not everybody's here to cut heads. That's a dangerous game to enter in with the AI conversation. And I'm not gonna say that it doesn't exist in my org, but the trick is converting it to, especially as a marketer, what can I do more with what I already have? And how do I prove that? And can AI augment my team? Someone said it earlier, nobody's gonna lose their job because of AI, but they're gonna lose their job because they don't know how to use AI. And then finally, the people, the team. What do we need to think about in order to solve your problem that you wrote down with regards to what do I need to do to augment the people? And so the roadmap, the way we approach our challenges, like you've written down, was the standard kind of crawl, walk, run, fly approach. So at the very, 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 very basic level, what is a quick win that can prove the fact that you can actually do the things you're saying you're gonna do? And it could be something as simple as, the meeting note efficiency for an advisor. So one of the things we're doing is we're actually building a meeting prep capability, which literally, using even Copilot that you probably already have licensed through your Microsoft deal, how do you build the facility that an advisor in advance of the next conversation has a pre-built, ready-to-go prompt or an automated prompt because it looks in the calendar and knows what's coming. And it looks through the last meeting notes, it looks through the client profile, it looks through some analytics reports, and it says, hey, here's the 3 things you should talk about with Joe or Sally or whoever it is the next time you have that meeting on Tuesday at 4. That's 2, 3, 4 hours of saved time. Efficiency, not cutting anybody. But that advisor now in that 2, 3, 4 hours can have 1 or 2 more high-value conversations that even at a half conversion rate of every other conversation is money in the bank. The walk phase gets a little bit more changing the processes and the way you work. You're running when you have full automated agents that are actually doing that stuff. So now it's not like waiting for the meeting to be booked. The agent is actually proactively booking the meeting with the client because it's been 6 months and a day since the last time we had a conversation, asking for missing information in their profile, like have they had a job change, et cetera, et cetera. And flying is a whole other game. So you thought about a problem a few minutes ago. We've had a couple of minutes of dialogue. So when you think about the problem, or the challenge or the opportunity, however you framed it, what and how many handoffs, how many touch points, how many people, how complex is that process that you wrote down? So I'll just use, writing a brief. Everybody here is in marketing. We all have briefs, whether it's for our agency, our internal team. How long does that take? How many people touch that brief before it actually finds its way into Workfront or a Word doc or whatever your process is? Probably a few. If you really think about it, I bet you'd be surprised at how many people actually touch those things. And I think the real question is when we think about AI at an efficiency level, that little bit of a crawl phase, What are the things that we can pull out of that process to just streamline it a little bit and show some benefit and value? And so in those first two phases, when we think about, again, the crawl and the walk, we think about really simple, stupid, nobody's going to fire you for taking this chance because you didn't really do anything dangerous to break the business. But there's some sort of measurable benefit, to build trust, gain credibility, and earn the right to do more and move your way up into the walk stage, which is really taking, let's say, that process or that challenge that you just wrote down or thought about at least, and really finding a way to create more efficiency. And so bottleneck removal, in our experience, removing touch points and friction points and humans out of the process is really one of those early key areas that can have win. There's not a lot of risk. You're not training cloud-based LLMs with all kinds of proprietary data. You're just simply saying, hey, if there's 7 people that have to touch this brief as an example, which was one of our first ones, how do I remove 3, 4, or 5 people from that process and automate that? Now, compliance is a great example. You're not going to automate compliance. I think someone said that this morning. But you can make it faster and better. Does 100% of everything have to go through that compliance process? Or can a model be trained to identify the 20% of things that are absolutely required to go through and flag a few others for a random spot check to make sure that the model's actually doing what it's supposed to be doing? So you're not removing humans, you're just removing some of the work that they have to do. And if you can solve some really quick short-term wins, then the real question becomes, how do you actually move into this pure growth engine? And I think the big move here is this is where you really require, and you need to think about how your IT, your technology, your infosec, your data team really get involved and are participatory. So as marketers in the room, is anybody here organization have a sort of an AI governance council or committee already set up in the organization? About the same 10%. So that was the first thing that we did as an organization. We actually got our CTO, our head of legal, my boss, who's our head of strategy and CMO, our COO, and then 4 or 5 of us from different parts of the business. And we basically said, okay, here's how we're going to operate. We're going to trust the IT and data team to control the data. That's what they do. And they're going to be able to maintain and build the environments within which we can play. But they're not going to be able to dictate what those use cases are. And so each business unit was able to put forth their 3 or 4 top proposals for use cases. Example, the meeting prep for the advisors was the distribution one. Content supply chain efficiency and getting more output through the door from a marketing perspective was one of ours. The brief, enhanced brief writing and simplification, translation, things like that. And everybody got the support of the centralized data and IT team. I didn't need to go and buy new technology that was centrally shared. I didn't need to go train and figure out what LLM to work with. And so when you think about low-hanging fruit, I would say that's not what to do. Because the first thing we actually did was we took advantage of all the embedded AI and all of the software and licenses and platforms that we already had. Great tip on how to get some wins, use what you already have. So if you're on Salesforce Marketing Cloud, have you turned on send time optimization? Which basically, if you don't know, says, what time should I send an email to an individual based on their propensity to open it and not get pissed off by me sending the email? Like, why would you ever code that? Why would you ever ask your IT team to do that? You're already paying probably millions of dollars in licenses to Salesforce. They're very expensive. Sorry if there's a Salesforce person here. Like, why build it? But here's the beautiful thing. At the end of that, you have some quick proof points to show 5, 10, 15. In fact, we showed about a 15% open rate efficiency, improvement, I should say. And all of a sudden, those that were maybe a little bit on the fence or on the risk side of AI enablement are like, oh, it works. You did nothing. You just turned on switches that you already have. So don't forget to look around the organization for the things you're already paying for that may have much more advanced capability than you could build in any kind of short term. It's not that scary, and it's already there. Case in point, a room full of AI-enabled platforms. I mean, every single tool you guys are using on your own. Who here uses like Copilot or Gemini on a daily basis just to like simplify their own lives? right? Everybody. This is the exact same thing, but at a corporate level. And when you get to the fly stage, like where the vision for all of this is, Adobe came out at their last summit, which was last March, and they literally said, we're going to have 10 different real-time agents running. One's going to be content, one's going to be audience segmentation. It's going to automatically create audiences and segment it and tell you who you should target. One is going to be an analytics engine that's going to proactively find insights in the traffic patterns to your website, and don't worry about it. We're going to tell you. And okay, it's fantasy land, yes, but we do know that in 24 months, these will be real things. Like this is, I had a boss who once said, I hate the inevitability answer to questions. This is inevitable, and I think the fact that every one of us is using the tools in their day-to-day is an exact representation of the inevitability. So when we take a look at the problem, we take a look at the number of touch points, handoffs, and challenges, the question then becomes, can you think of an AI or the use of an AI capability to maybe create a bit of efficiency or benefit or solve the problem? It could be anything. Anybody want to throw one out? What was your problem and maybe what one of the... And again, I'm not assuming you're making this up here. You guys have probably been thinking about this for weeks, months, days. Anyone have a real problem they want to share? All right. Yep.
I guess one problem I have is getting everything in our ecosystem to talk to each other. Being in a company that is again, highly regulatory, we have been vendors for 30 years, it feels like, before we're allowed to do anything with them. So thank you. Thanks. So getting anything to talk to anything else, like getting a Microsoft form to connect with Power Automate. Even though in theory, those should talk to each other, you being able to use Copilot or being able to use another tool in the Microsoft AI suite, getting even those Microsoft tools to talk to each other is difficult, let alone bringing in data from Salesforce Marketing Cloud or consistently being able to bring in data from another spot. So when I'm thinking about a crawl experiment, it's dang, I'm really limited by the environment of my company here.
So data access is absolutely one of the core fundamental challenges. So example. So in our, now here's the problem. It's not easy to solve that with AI. That's an enabler to AI solutions. And the example on our advisor prep meeting, so the distribution team went ahead and started on their own saying, oh, well, we've got access to Outlook and all of the emails that went back and forth. And oh, well, everybody uses their own personal cell phone to talk to their clients, and we don't have call data. That's a bit of a gap. But the meeting notes should be enough. And all of the dispositions and the notes that they copiously take in the Salesforce CRM system, non-existent. So I heard about the project because of the governance committee, and raised my hand and said, well, every one of these clients, not all, but about 75% of them have access to our online portal, log in at a frequency, come to our website even prior to login, open our newsletters, view our podcasts, read articles on whether I should pay down my mortgage or invest for my retirement, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, wait, they search things, and we have a CDP. Oh, what about the clickstream data and all of the behavioral elements? Could that augment some of the gaps? The problem was that data wasn't landed in our data warehouse. So, one is you need people around the table who share the brainstorming because they would never have even known to think about that, not their world, nothing personal. But you need a data team and a CDO or whatever you title them who's willing to actually help stitch all that stuff together because absolutely the models will work better with more information from more sources. There's no question. And so behavioral and inferred and modeled, all of that data needs to come together. And so our environment, somehow it's a HANA environment, doesn't really matter, is centralized, controlled, and as I said before, one of the key tenets we made at the beginning of the governance committee setup was the data team will own the centralized data, but make fully available all data for the purpose of AI modeling. And so then the compliance team just needs to make sure that the place you're doing the modeling, if it's in the cloud, now ours are mostly within a private cloud within Google or Microsoft, but if it's going to be outside, they just need to vet the security and accessibility of that information and that it's a private environment. They don't have to worry about anything else. But that is an absolute core enabler. Anyone else have a problem they want to share? They're probably all the same. Okay, I won't force you, because I want to get to the game anyway. So I'm being honest. So I talked about people. So we're spending a lot of time thinking about, as you start to implement AI solutions to solve problems, there's a natural fear amongst many of the people on the team of job loss, irrelevance, lack of skills. How do you even measure quality where people are now not doing the things they did before? How do you measure their results and their success? Did they drive increased conversion, or did the AI engine drive increased conversion and they just happened to press the button, and is that the same value as it was 6 months ago when they had to do all the work? So I don't know how you measure that. How do you teach somebody, I think that was it the last one, or earlier this morning we were talking about the age of your marketing team, right? And hiring like co-ops and new grads who just think and act differently. You know, what percentage of your marketing team is under the age of 25 right now? Probably not a lot in financial services, at least in roles that you're aware of. But that's the next, I see conversation, hold on. What percentage? You guys are talking, what percentage? Not. Yeah? Okay. New hires, which is still a small percentage of the total machine. I worked at a company called Rogers in Canada, a big telco, a long time ago, and we had a board member, and he literally came in and he sat the CMO, my boss, and myself down, and he was actually the guy who invented Macromedia and sold it, Flash, sold it to Adobe. So he made a lot of money, sitting at the head, massive boardroom table, 3 of us, and he looked at us and goes, he swore, I'm just going to predicate this. He goes, how many effing people on your team are under the age of, he said 26. And my CMO looks at me, he goes, how many? And I'm like, I don't know. And he goes, if it's not 50%, you're effed. Because how do you market to the next generation if your marketers aren't your next generation? Now, that was an extreme example, but the point is, how are you supposed to figure out how to leverage AI if you don't know how to use it? And again, I'm glad everybody's using it for their personal lives. And now how do we start to translate that? So what we're doing is actually doing a bunch of stuff. We're building some tools that actually help train our marketers on what is good. So imagine a world where you're over 50 and you grew up with ad agencies and creative teams and sitting in creative review meetings, evaluating, and then seeing the results when you put it into a test environment, and it took 90 days and you get some qualitative feedback. That doesn't happen as much anymore because the machine shoves 14 versions in real time and you might not even see them with enough detail. And so we're not really training marketers to know what's good until after the campaign's over based on the analytics because the machine's doing it. But that's a little dangerous. You kind of still need to know. So what we're actually doing is taking creative that's worked, and we're actually training a model and running sort of a synthetic coach for our marketing team to start to help them, when they're writing briefs, know what was actually determined to be good in advance as opposed to waiting until the end. So we're doing some stuff like that. We're also changing the evaluation model for how we're actually saying, did you do a good job this year and you get your full bonus or not? It's early stages. But the point is, you need to start to be thinking about these things, because the team and their evolution of using these tools is going to be critical. And so that kind of goes to the sort of last point of the flow, which is there's a lot of different people involved in any kind of AI solution. We talked about data, we talked about compliance, we talked about marketers, we talked about sales distribution. Think of how many people you would need at the table to just do one pilot, even one of those crawl basic, well, if you're flipping the switch on Salesforce Marketing Cloud send time optimization, you probably just need to make sure that your compliance and legal team are cool with you flipping the switch. But beyond that, anything else gets a little more sophisticated, and there's a lot of people involved. So one thing is, do they know what the hell they're talking about? The second is, are they risk averse enough and knowledgeable enough to actually enable what you're trying to do? But most importantly, do they actually have any ability to help in actually driving an AI pilot and implementing and getting it done if they don't know what they're talking about? Right? And that's where the sort of, you can't have a bunch of 50-year-olds at the table trying to make a decision on an AI pilot. It's just not going to work. I'm over 50, trust me, and I'm like, I wouldn't even hold myself to account. So you need to really think about, how many people need to be involved, but most importantly, just like in the efficiency of getting more done with less and faster using AI, when you think about the team composition of who you need at the table, who do you really need there, and who can you just not invite? I'm being serious. This is one of those, to get things going, sometimes you just need to ask for forgiveness later. Data team critical, legal compliance critical. Everyone else, I'd say on an as-needed basis. Don't overdo it, because you will slow yourselves down and you will not get anything done. And so that role that we as AI-enabled marketers need to take to funnel these pilots through in the future, we're starting to think about, one, what roles don't we need at all? Two, what roles can be augmented and changed? And three, what are the skills that we don't even have today that we need to actually create? And I hope that it nets out at about equilibrium. So for every role we don't need, hopefully there's a role we do need, so we don't necessarily need to net down in headcount. Nobody wants to do that. There will obviously be casualties, but there will be net new things that we don't do today. MarTech roles is a great example, right? MarTech today is setting up the systems, administering the capabilities, building the segments, managing the quality of the future. It's going to be a heck of a lot more data integration, exposing data to different AI platforms and models. It's similar, but it's different. And so we need to think about, what are we doing to train? So that AI generalist, do we kind of really know how we're going to train and teach people to augment their roles? There's certain things that humans are always going to be needed for. This is why we're training people on the definition of what's good, right? Creative ideation, strategic thinking, team leadership, motivation, coaching. I'm not prepared to pass that off to an AI model. Maybe you are, I don't know. And new skills. I haven't seen, everybody talks about prompt engineering. Has anybody here got a role on their team called a prompt engineer? No. No, it's a skill, it's not a job title. We all have to have it. Everybody has to have it. We're building training models. We're working with some really interesting companies. Writer's a great one for financial services. I have I get nothing from this, but I will plug them. We've been working with Writer. I think IBM and Accenture might have put money into them for financial services LLMs. Translation, brief writing, content production, compliance garnered content production, mutual fund disclosure documents, really technical stuff, really, really strong. And so that's an area where I need people who know how to prompt that machine to get the output, but they just as much need to know what's good when it comes out the other end. No machine's going to tell me that. So those are, some of the ways we're thinking about people. And so, when you think about kind of going to the office and saying, okay, time to do something new, just think about the things we talked about. What's the problem? What were those touch points that maybe there's an efficiency or opportunity to make a little faster, better, cheaper, simpler? Who do I really need at the table to make that happen? And can I literally go back to the office and on Monday just book a meeting and get this thing going? Because this is, we can overthink these things. I think this world of AI demands speed and efficiency, not just in the implementation, but in the ideation. So the more ideas you write down of things you can try, it's a funnel, right? We're going to start with 100. We're going to have a conversation about 20. We're going to put 5 on the must-do list. We're going to start 1. But the key is, it's figuring out who you need at the table. Like I said, don't over-invite. Identify the efficiency or the benefit that you're trying to achieve, and you just kind of got to start. That's all this is. It's just trying it and starting. I haven't yet seen anybody lose their job for doing that, yet. As long as the data is available, and it's, again, who did I say is critical? Like your data team and your legal and compliance. As long as they're bought in, everybody else is, as far as I'm concerned, a nice to have. If you need them, you bring them. If you don't, you do it yourself. Take full advantage of all of the embedded AI capabilities in the platforms you're already buying, because it's vetted, it's approved, it's good to go. The data's already there. There's nothing funky about it. And measure the outcomes and use that for getting buy-in for the next one. That's all it is. I mean, you guys have done this with every other thing in the past. It's just a new tool and technology. Tomorrow at like 3:30, I'm going to actually talk about the benefits and a bunch of use cases that we've actually done, and some of the numbers are quite remarkable so far. So, with that, thoughts, questions, feedback, kicks, ball games? Ironic that we had hot dogs for lunch. Anyway, thank you. Nope.
Can you please repeat the name of the platform you said you've been using?
Writer.
Writer?
Like spelt writer, like W-R-I-T-E-R,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's, they were venture backed, and then, yeah, IBM put a ton of money into them, and we're live in production. Our briefs are now going through it, integrated into Workfront, right through the whole Adobe stack, pulling assets from the DAM, and all the way through to literally a compliance person just has to say approved. So massive efficiency. We're doing about 10, I'll talk about this tomorrow, about 10 times the campaign volume with the same number of people in 9 months. Yeah. Yeah, really strong. Last scan. Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks. 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 Go Jays.
Break. How about that? And then when you get back, I promise you we're going to do a